everyone, welcome back to our channel and our travels in Indonesia. We are Pierre, Lisa, and our free crew member Tiller. We're now in Indonesia and getting ready to depart across the Indian Ocean towards Mauritius and then South Africa. In this video, we'll visit the more commonly visited islands in Indonesia, the Komodo region, and also Lombok. Indonesia is the fourth most populated country in the world. A bit surprising when you travel by boat because many of the islands don't seem that populated, but the population is spread over the many thousands of islands in this country. Well, that's quite a burden on feeding people, particularly people that rely on fish as a protein staple in their diet. There has been dynamite fishing, which was made legal in 1985, but still some dynamite fishing persists. Luckily, there's a lot of reef restoration projects and education so that the fishermen understand if they destroy the reefs, the fish may not come back. In this video, you're going to see some of the most beautiful reefs and scuba diving that we saw near the Komodo region, and then also some dynamite fishing and reef restoration that we saw in the Gili Islands near Lombok. You're collecting little clams for seafood.
Yeah.
Looks nice. In our last video, we arrived in Labuan Bajo and found a beautiful bay for anchoring. A very peaceful bay just a couple miles north of the bustling city. Our friend Catherine, who joined us in Raja Ampat, and you saw in the last two episodes, would be leaving from the Komodo airport near the anchorage. Many of the other rally boats anchored in the same bay, and we had friends and camaraderie. Clean water is beckoning us for a swim, in a backdrop that painted a perfect chill-out scene. The days were just thrilling, paddleboarding, taking our furry friend Tiller to the sandy shores, and indulging in drinks and meals at the Ayana Hotel, which has a fabulous view, especially at sunset. There can always be a little drama in the anchorage when some boats get too close, when the winds or currents change. Great Circle was away from the boat when this happened, and the other boat really didn't want to move because they were there first, but eventually did.
Counting money. We're always counting Indonesian money because it takes enormous quantities of bills when you have to pay by cash. Even Tiller finds it interesting.
And you have to pay by cash for everything.
Yes, you have to pay by cash for everything.
Exploration of the city begins with trips to the city by dinghy, and we discovered the cozy Copper Bonnet Bistro and Bar. Quickly it became our rendezvous point and our base for shopping escapades in town. The town itself is a treasure for provisioning. We found an excellent array of choices, and for wine and spirits, the enthusiasts among us, the selection was top-notch. Well, top-notch for Indonesia, that is. One of our highlights of this region? Well, that was surely scuba diving, and we embarked on journeys to the Komodo Islands with scallywag divers who had a fast boat. And the scuba diving here was absolutely fabulous. For our diving adventures, scallywag divers would come and pick us up right on our boat. The owner had only opened the shop 3 weeks ago, and here's what he has to say about it.
Hello, my name is Simon. I'm the manager of Scallywag in Labuan Bajo. I've been taking care of all the beautiful sailing people that are doing a trip around the world. Now, yesterday the dive site were Shotgun, Crystal Rock and Castle Rock. Tomorrow I want to take you to Tatawa Besar, to Siaba Besar, and we go see the dragons in Rinsa Island. It's going to be an amazing trip.
Okay. The trip to Rinsa to see the dragons was indeed very interesting. It was a guided tour because the dragons can be dangerous and can run at speeds up to 18 kilometers per hour. Their bite can be deadly because the mouth is full of bacteria. And another interesting fact is that when kept in a zoo, these reptiles can undergo parthenogenesis, which is the laying of eggs without need of a male for fertilization. And during our hike through the park, the view from the top of the hill was absolutely magnificent. Our stay in Labuan Bajo was added with a sprinkle of festivity as it coincided with Pierre's birthday. And to our delight, as the dive boat approached Biotrek in the morning, the scallywag divers were holding up a sign, a simple birthday surprise. Their thoughtfulness was really touching. Pierre's birthday was off to a heartwarming start, and the dive itself, simply
From
fabulous.
0 to 20 meters.
It's fantastic corals everywhere, big sponges, the biggest sponges I've ever
I'm just
seen.
going to show you a few of the highlights of this dive now, so that you can compare with what a reef looks like after blast or dynamite fishing. And if you want to see the full beautiful reef, then stay to the end of the video and I'll have all those shots at the end. After our dive, we rushed back to the boat so that we could get organized for the birthday party we had organized, and we had invited all the nearby boats that were in the anchorage.
One more beautiful sunset, and it's Pierre's birthday.
With music setting the tone, we cleared an onboard dance floor, and the celebrations truly began. Friends from the rally, who were anchored in the bay near Biotrek, joined in, making it an evening to remember. The nice thing about sailing rallies is the friendship that forms when sailing across oceans together, a unique bond shared by mariners who, after meeting in port, part ways only to find our paths crossing again. After Catherine left for Komodo Airport, we raised anchor and headed towards Lombok. We stopped for a couple days in the island of Simbawa for an excursion to see the whale sharks. Whale sharks are filter feeders, and they're often found around the pangas, which are a type of fishing boat that uses lights to attract squid. But it also attracts plankton, which the whale sharks like. Unfortunately, we went there on a day that was just crowded with boats. There were people everywhere, and even diving, it was a little unpleasant being so crowded, so we didn't stay too long, but we did have glimpses of these magnificent creatures. So this video about reef restoration has focused on blast or dynamite fishing, but I also want to point out that boats, sailboats like ours that anchor on coral reefs, are also responsible for destruction of the reefs. In Indonesia, there aren't very many mooring balls, and usually you do need to anchor. And when we reached the anchorage, we tried to find a place where it looked sandy and there was no coral, and Luma and Pierre went diving just to make sure. They saw that there was coral where we anchored, so we lifted anchor and moved to another location a little bit deeper out. After we arrived in Lombok, Luma and I were thrilled to explore the underwater realm of Gili Air, one of the islands near the marina where we were staying. But our dive guide had already set our expectations pretty low. Let's just say a lot lower. And it's true, after the vibrant reefs of Raja Ampat and Komodo, Gili Air was heart-wrenching. Around Gili Air, the aftermath of dynamite fishing was starkly evident, and there were a few resilient coral heads, although most of the reef was in ruins, with just some scattered, stunning bits here and there. One thing that seems easy to spot among the rubble are the nudibranchs. It seems that I always see nudibranchs on reefs that have suffered from dynamite fishing. When the macroscopic seaweed takes over a reef, it's never a good sign. Despite the obvious devastation of the reef in the past, today this is a tourist destination, and it seems to be coming back. And also a beacon of hope is the coral restoration project that we could see underwater, and this piqued our interest to find out more. Eileen from Pump 3 joined in with Pierre, Luma, and me. We rented scuba tanks and journeyed to the Indonesian Baru Foundation, whose name translates to Blue Foundation. This small center is supported by the government, and there are educational displays and coral growing in tanks. Blue UV light illuminates the tanks, simulating the natural light of coral reefs, where the majority of the visible spectrum diminishes with depth.
The light?
They need the blue light
Yeah.
because water filters light.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't. Malik was our guide and instructor for the day.
To adapt the coral and then make it survive. And then after that, we're gonna put it back.
So are you changing temperatures and things like that?
Yeah.
So you're trying to make it survive warmer temperature?
Yeah. We put the medicine and the food from the coral.
This is the coral food?
Yeah. But the magnesium.
Calcium and magnesium. Coral cannot survive on a sandy bottom, so it must be elevated, and there's two ways of doing that. One is using these wire cages, and it's attached to the wire cage with twist ties, or these ceramic supports are used to put different types of coral together to form kind of a coral garden.
We're gonna put the glue here, and then after that we take the coral, we put the coral.
We did a shore entry to swim out to the site. There was a lot of boat traffic, so as soon as it was deep enough, we swam underwater. Here's the sound of a boat overhead. It was pretty obvious when we arrived at the reef. It was a rubble field of broken coral. But when we searched among the rubble, we could find some fragments of coral still alive. The first step was to go where there had been devastation from blast or dynamite fishing and find any pieces of living coral that we could and put them in a basket so that we could later plant them. The sad thing about blast fishing is that it indiscriminately kills just about everything below the blast area, including such beautiful large clams, such as this shell that I saw. Here's a rare, small part of the reef that survived the blast fishing. Here is a solitary sea anemone, a type of soft coral that typically lives in symbiosis with anemone fish. Noticeably absent were anemone fish. There's a little nudibranch. After gathering up living pieces of coral, we returned to the supports where they would be placed later. Malik dumped the basket, and we sorted through the coral, putting the smallest pieces back in the basket and leaving the larger pieces that could be directly attached to the framework there on the seafloor, and we would return after lunch. The smaller pieces were taken back to the shop to be mounted in ceramic. You'll note during the harvesting step, we didn't damage any living coral. We're just using coral fragments that we found in the debris field. Lunch break was at a small local lunch stand, just a few dollars for lunch. After a quick lunch, we were to the next step, which would be planting the coral. This type of coral restoration or coral gardening is really important because it allows the natural recovery of coral fragments. The coral animals can't survive when they're covered by sand or debris from dead coral pieces that may be washed around with waves or during a storm. It is much easier for these coral fragments to survive than for early life stage coral to establish itself in a new reef environment. Once the corals are reestablished, they can then reproduce sexually through broadcast spawning, which is the synchronous release of eggs and sperm in the water. Coral reproduction is critical for coral to spread to new areas and expand the coral reefs. As we swam back to the beach, we picked up any plastic debris that we saw. Plastic debris is still a problem in Indonesia. So how long ago was that reef destroyed?
Since 2016, a lot of people here catch a piece like doing a bomb and then broke a lot of coral there. We just try to push the government to make a rule about that so that the government will give the money to buy a fish, to buy the net, to catch the fish. You don't have to doing the bomb, and then trying to educate people a lot around here about how to catch fish as well.
So what did you think of it?
J'ai bien aimé. C'est un peu. Je peux parler en français?
André.
I liked it. I prefer the second one because we were underwater walking, and so like focusing on the two big gloves. It was kind of scary though because we were like not deep at all, and the boats were going really, really fast over our heads. So like, what did you think about it?
It's sad. I think everybody involved with the boating industry, starting from the top down, should be forced to do some coral restoration to understand the impact of dropping an anchor at the wrong location or blowing dynamite to fish.
How long do you think it'll take before that really regrows? How many years?
Yeah, I thought we should wait until 5 years in minimum.
I'm going to come back here in 5 years.
Okay.
Okay? I promise. I'm going to come back here in 5 years and we're going to go down and look together.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
And now, here's what a healthy reef looks like.
Welcome to Tatawa Besar. Tatawa Besar means to be laugh.
Oh.
Yeah.
One of the dive sites in Komodo has a name intriguingly meaning to laugh. Yet when we juxtapose this vibrant reef against the heart-wrenching visuals of the Lombok Reef, shattered by blast fishing, it becomes overwhelmingly clear. Reef preservation is a topic that warrants our utmost seriousness and immediate attention. Educating Asian fishermen and engaging local leaders can have an enormous impact in education and awareness campaigns. By involving respected figures from within the community, the message of conservation and the destruction consequences of blast fishing can more effectively be conveyed. Additionally, providing alternative livelihood options for fishermen, such as sustainable fishing practices or tourism-related activities, can help alleviate the economic pressures that often drive individuals to resort to blast fishing. Protecting our oceans is not only essential for the environment, but also for our own sustainable future. Stay to the end to find out why Luma didn't go diving. That's your masterpiece. Why didn't you go?
I missed my part.
Why didn't you go? The other night we had such a fun evening of music and dancing with the rally, and as the night went on it got a little wilder and lots of fun.
What?
Admit it. So
Why didn't you go?
Why didn't you go?
I had a lot of dancing. They're really ashamed. I don't know what to do.
I will tell you why. She couldn't go because she couldn't swim. And she couldn't swim because she danced too much.
Wait a minute. I think I'll have to show a shot of why your legs would pop
Yeah.
out from dancing.
Yeah, we need to see that.
On the-
She was dancing like crazy. And now she can barely walk and she tried to swim but she was gonna sink.
In our next video, join us for a sail across the Indian Ocean.